if you seek more cultural diversity in your reads. Books set in Afghanistan. If you want to know more about different values, different traditions, what you need to read is Khaled Hosseini. His books are emotional roller coasters that blend the beauty of friendship and deep relationships and family with the ugliness and violence of war. All the characters are complex, they evolve, they grow up with you because most of the books are multi-generational. You feel each one is a very, very real person because you are able to follow her or him throughout his life and see how he grows up, how he handles success, how he handles suffering. Characters are put in very tough situations and they come out of them, however brutal, with hope. I hope you are convinced already, but I'm going through 3 of his books, so feel free to skip ahead if one is of particular interest to you. The first one I want to talk about is The Kite Runner. This one is set in Afghanistan around 1960s. I feel this book is about how one moment, one solitary moment, can change your entire life. One moment to define you as a person, to impact your behavior in a drastic way, for better or for worse. One moment can define who you are. Why can one moment be so important? It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it. You can change your life, grow as a person, make your life matter more, be more meaningful, just because you feel guilty of a sin you committed. The idea of repentance, of atonement, is extremely powerful. It says, yes, you have made a mistake. You cannot fix that mistake, but you can learn from a mistake and make your life better and make life of those around you better because you have learned from it. Anyone can learn from their own mistakes. And The Kite Runner is the perfect book to exemplify that. So the book is set in Afghanistan in 1964 and it follows a child, Amir, into adulthood. The way it starts, it makes you think it's an autobiography, especially since the author, Khaled Hosseini, is also born in Afghanistan and has spent his childhood there. What the author says is that, of course, this is not an autobiography, but it has autobiographical parts, especially his own experience as an immigrant in the United States. What I liked about it is is how it portrays life in Afghanistan before the arrival of the Russians or the Taliban, and it was quite different than it is today. Today the country is ravaged after years of war, but back then it was in a lot better place. The book starts with Amir's activities as a child with his friend and servant Hassan. Hassan is of the Hazara ethnicity, while Amir is Pashtun. This ethnical divide makes their friendship very unlikely, and it puts a strain on it their entire life. And the reality of that is portrayed in the book with heartbreaking examples. When Amir and his father flee Afghanistan, Hassan and his father stayed behind. The story follows Amir to California, talks a lot about his experience as an immigrant. More importantly, The book is about Amir's relationship with his father. This relationship evolves from a very distant one in Afghanistan when Amir felt like um, he had to compete for his father's love, uh, and anything he did wasn't enough, to a more real and closer one in America, where they are the only one left in their family, and they get to become very, very close. Amir starts his journey with a deep desire to please his father. His mother had died during childbirth, and he feels like his father is holding him accountable for that. However, the fact that he cannot live to his father's standards makes him very jealous to everything that gets his father attention, and that makes him petty, and he acts badly towards Hassan because he feels he competes with him for his own father's love. And yet, throughout his life, we follow him, and he manages to grow, to become a beautiful person, a strong person. He does that when he stops wanting to fulfill his father's expectations. It's a beautiful evolution to follow, and a very emotional one. I loved how their entire relationship grows. The book also deals with trauma, the trauma of rape in particular. Why you should read The Kite Runner? For me, it's the perfect example of how remorse can make you a better person. It is an emotional read. As all Khaled Hosseini's books, it will make you sad and hopeful. Another one is A Thousand Splendid Suns. This marvelous novel is also set in Afghanistan around the 1950s. It spans for almost 50 years. We get to see the country through the eyes of two women, Mariam and Layla, and the book makes us understand extremely well how war and religious fundamentalists have affected women in Afghanistan. In this book, Hosseini is masterful at describing family life, the beauty and the brutality of it. He walks us through the sorrows of being an illegitimate child, through the shame of having extramarital relationships, the duties of being a wife to an abusive, extremely violent husband. We also witness the deep sorrow of having a miscarriage, the fear and the pain and the cruelty of seeing your children hungry. The book is not at all pretty. The writing, however, is superb. We have violent images that actually feel like punches in the stomach. This book made me want to cry a lot. And the thing that was more heartbreaking was that even the characters I feared and hated so much, I understood. They had a background that explained their behavior in a heartbreaking way. As in all Hosseini's books, we see again the history of Afghanistan with the Taliban's coming into power, with the religious changes they impose. We see how they beat women just for walking alone on the street. We see them imposing a burqa. We understand how they leave the women powerless, physically as well as intellectually. Women have no access to health, nor medicine, nor education. Their life is simply changed completely upside down by the coming of Taliban, and the book explains it all extremely well. So no matter what happens, Hosseini leaves room for hope. That is another reason why I love these books. No matter what happens on the outside, no matter the war, the hunger, the terrible pains one has to go through, the love inside the family is what carries him throughout anything. The last book I'm talking about here is And the Mountains Echoed. I particularly feel this is the crown jewel of Khaled Hosseini's work. It is a multi-generational novel. It is set in multiple places: Afghanistan, Paris, America, Greece, and it is told from multiple points of view. Absolutely every character in this story is beautifully developed. And we get to follow multiple characters throughout their lives. Each one gets to tell a story from their own point of view, and we get to see how each character plays a role in another character's story. We see how the stories intertwine and tangle. It's in a way, like the author puts it in the Kite Runner, something very Afghan. Take two Afghans who've never met, put them in a room for 10 minutes, and they'll figure out how they're related. So this novel puts this quote to the test, and it works out perfectly. It's like a little puzzle with everyone's life being a piece of the puzzle. Every story is unique, every experience each character has is different. They see the same thing in different way, from a different perspective, with a different background and life experience. It's all extremely real. It feels like talking about our neighbors, and the result is an astounding story. And the difference from the other books by Khaled Hosseini is that here the stories are, though sad, they are less violent. It all starts in Afghanistan with a family who needs to sell their daughter Pari to an adoptive family because they can no longer provide food for themselves. Pari's brother Abdullah gets to remain home with the family while she is extremely young and going into adoption forgets very fast her entire past because she's like 2 years old when she's adopted. That leaves Abdullah, her brother, with the pain of losing a sister, while she with the feeling of something missing her entire life and not knowing what. We get to see the deep contrast of how rich versus how poor family live in Afghanistan. Further down the line, Pari's life is very different. She gets to move to France with her mother, while Abdullah continues in Afghanistan for a longer time. Of course, Pari's life is very privileged, even though her adoptive parents, Wadati and Nala, have a strained marriage. Very soon they get divorced. Nala moves to Paris while Wadati continues in Afghanistan until his death. We follow Pari and her brother throughout their lives until old age, and we get to see their entire families grow old as well. All the other stories connect to these two brothers, and we get different bits of experiences, like the guilt of those who leave Afghanistan during the war and then return to their home. What they find impacts them emotionally very much. They feel like strangers in their own country because they haven't lived through the same experiences as those that stayed. Especially like the story of a young doctor who comes back and emotionally connects with a young girl who is alone and disfigured, but who ultimately can't help her because when he goes back to America, he isn't emotionally strong enough to do something about her case. He prefers to forget everything about Afghanistan, even though he still feels very guilty about it. The realness of such characters is very striking. They are completely representative of all the characters in Khaled Hosseini's books. They are simple humans with normal lives, normal experiences that go through something that is a lot bigger, and we get to see how normal people react to a terrifying event. They are people full of fear, full of selfishness. They desire comfort, love, and happiness, and want to forget about war and any unpleasant experience. That is natural and normal, and seeing people, characters in a book react that way makes them very humane. They also face normal situations like sickness, taking care of an old invalid parent, giving up school or travel in order to be close to a parent in the last years of life, dealing with alcoholic and or narcissistic parents. These type of situations are so real. Other than Dostoevsky or Tolstoy, I haven't really seen an author that can describe and capture a character so well, write their reactions in such a beautiful and relatable manner. Khaled Hosseini's gift is to make a character not a hero but a person like any other one, and capture the emotion, the way a normal person would react to something. All his characters are flawed and selfish and full of fear, like all the humans, and they are all complex and with multifaceted personalities. At the end of the book, I loved them all and felt very, very close to these characters. After all, I watched them grow up. So, why you should read Khaled Hosseini's books? Well, all these books are unique and beautiful and will open up an entire new world. Their violence will make you shudder, the relationships will make you hope, the characters will make you question and challenge yourself. We all love heroes, and the fact that his books have none is humbling in a way. It says nobody can save you. Life is ugly and difficult. We can do our best, and sometimes that will not be enough. But our family will be there for us. To see that in a book is, though emotional, very real as well. And I love that about all these books. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, perhaps we have the same taste in books and you'll definitely enjoy my other reviews. Thank you for watching.